So when I will say okay, then we will start. Right, Rehan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all on the occasion of Forensic Psychology Day, being observed at School of Behavioral Sciences, National Forensic Sciences University, and Institute of National Importance, Gandhinagar, Gujarat, India. I'm Dr. Prashanto, moderator for today's session. On behalf of the organizers of today's virtual meet, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all the distinguished guests and participants. I would like to extend my heartiest welcome to Dr. James Vyas, sir, our Honorable Vice Chancellor of National Forensic Sciences University, and the Director General of Directorate of Forensic Sciences, FSL Gandhinagar, who has been the source of inspiration and continuous support in bringing out the best in the arena of forensic sciences within and outside the country. The vision of forensic development indigenously has been the brainchild of Honorable Vyas, sir. His able statesmanship and administrative skills allowed flourishing the vibrant field of forensics within the country, and now it is reaching out to the pinnacle of success and glory. He has been awarded with the President's Police Medal for meritorious services in the field of crime investigation. He has also been adjudged as the best forensic science laboratory director of the country and was awarded with a commendation certificate by the Deputy Prime Minister at the 15th All India Forensic Science Conference in 2004. Sir has been awarded with the Lifetime Achievement Award in the area of forensic chemistry by Amity University and All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, in October 2008. In addition, he has authored and co-authored several articles and book chapters in reputed journals and is very well known forensic expert of the country. I welcome you, sir. I'm glad to welcome Professor Dr. S.O. Junare, sir, Campus Director, Dean, School of Management Studies and Doctoral Studies and Research, NFSU, another eminent personality who contributed in the growth of forensic sciences and incessantly stood as the supporting pillars of this vibrant field. His expertise has been in the area of forensic accounting and behavioral economics. I welcome you, sir. I welcome Shri C.D. Jadeja, sir, Executive Registrar, and other administrative staff of NFSU for joining today's scientific deliberations. Distinguished guests, I'm also delighted to be given this responsibility to welcome Mr. Amir Liberman, the leading researcher in the field of human voice analysis and the CEO of Nemisco Limited, today as the keynote speaker for attending this session. He has done ample amount of researches in real-life settings to understand the uniqueness and unfamiliar world of phonetics, and is also the inventor of layered voice analysis. Mr. Amir formed Nemisco Limited in April 2000. Since then, he has invested all his efforts and resources in perfecting and fine-tuning LVA technology and its applications for homeland security needs, fraud prevention, and corporate resource management applications. We are really privileged to host you, sir, on this virtual platform. Stating further, the August gathering is also blessed by our mentor and famous forensic psychologist and neuropsychologist of India, Dr. C.R. Mukundan, sir, Emeritus Professor of School of Behavioral Sciences, NFSU, who has been the cornerstone of forensic psychology development and progress within the country. Frankly, he doesn't need any formal introduction as he has contributed immensely in the field and still pursuing his curiosity to understand the brain of the mind and the behavior interaction. My heartiest welcome to you, sir. I'm also elated to welcome Senior IPS Officer Sri Keshav Kumar, sir, DGP and Director, ACB Government of Gujarat, Ahmedabad, for sparing his valuable time in today's deliberations and agreeing to throw light on the field. He has been bestowed twice President's Police Medal 2012 and 2004, along with other accolades at national and international level. He has been an active member with Directorate of Forensic Sciences and National Forensic Sciences University for training national and international participants in forensic applications. He is a seasoned police investigator and also a senior IPS officer. We are thankful to you, sir, for your valuable presence. I extend my warm welcome to Ms. Amita Shukla, Deputy Director, DFS Gandhinagar, who has more than 26 years of experience as a forensic psychology professional, and She has examined more than 1,000 suspects, including sensational serial killings, riots, and terrorism cases within the country. I extend our greetings to Dr. Hema Acharya, another speaker for today's session, Assistant Director, DFS Gandhinagar. She embraces more than 10 years of experience as forensic psychology expert in BAOS, LVA, and psychological assessments. She holds a doctorate in forensic psychology and a diploma in clinical and community psychology. She has published scientific articles and won awards for a seminal contribution to the field of forensic psychology and investigation. I extend a very warm welcome to our very own Brigadier Dr. K.K. Tripathi, Dean, School of Behavioral Sciences and FSU, a humble and dedicated personality who has been incessantly guiding the fraternity to reach the pinnacle of knowledge and wisdom. I welcome you, sir. I also welcome the academic fraternity, my fellow colleagues, Central Forensic Science Laboratory officers, State Forensic Science Laboratory officers, and professionals who are participating today in this webinar. On behalf of NFSU family, we are deeply appreciative and offer you our most grateful welcome. Before I begin, I would like to brief about the schedule of this webinar today. The organization of the webinar will be as follows. First, Brigadier Dr. K.K. Tripathi, the Dean, will be introducing today's theme with an opening remark and will provide an overview about charting the course of forensic psychology in the coming year and its relevance. Following this, the first invited talk of today's session will be delivered by Shri Keshav Kumar Sir, DGP and Director, ACB Government of Gujarat, who will be speaking on the topic Experiences of ACB with LVA and Psychological Profiling. The session will be chaired by our very own Campus Director, Sir Professor S.O. Junare, NFSU. After this, another keynote address of the session will be by our Reverend Mr. Amir Lieberman, CEO, Nemesco Limited. He will be speaking on LVA past, present, and future. His session will be chaired by Emeritus Professor C.R. Mukundan, sir. Subsequently, Dr. Hema Acharya, Assistant Director, DFS Gandhinagar, will share her perspectives, users' perspectives on challenges in LVA as the second invited speaker. Mrs. Amita Shukla, Deputy Director, DFS Gandhinagar, will be chairing this session. Following this, Professor Emeritus Dr. C.R. Mukundan, a renowned forensic psychologist, will share his valuable thoughts on Forensic Psychology Day. Finally, at the end, we would request Dr. J.M. Vyas, sir, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, to share kind words on the observance of Forensic Psychology Day and bless the occasion. After this brief introduction about today's imperative webinar, now I would request Brigadier Dr. K.K. Tripathi, sir, to initiate the opening remarks. Over to you, Tripathi, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Prashanto. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Even though it may be a repetition, I once again extend a warm welcome to Dr. J.M. Vyas, Honorable Vice Chancellor, National Forensic Sciences University, and a guiding spirit to all of us. Dr. C.R. Mukundan, Honorary Chairperson, Axonet Brain Research Center, and Professor Emeritus at this university. Mr. Keshav Kumar Ji, the Director General of Police and Director Anti-Corruption Bureau, Gujarat. Dr. S.O. Junare, the Campus Director, Gandhinagar Campus and Delhi Campus. The present deans and other distinguished guests from the DFS and other places. I also extend a special and warm welcome to Mr. Amir Lieberman, who has spared his valuable time to be with us. For some of you, especially Mr. Amir and the students who have joined this year, I would like to state that we observe 21st January every year as Forensic Psychology Day. The tradition goes back to 2011 when a decision was made that 21st January each year will be observed as Forensic Psychology Day during the 37th National Annual Conference of Indian Association of Clinical Psychologists. This conference was hosted by then Institute of Behavioral Sciences and had a theme as Clinical Forensic Psychology. During this conference, Dr. G.G. Prabhu, the founder president of Indian Association of Clinical Psychologists, proposed that 21st January should be observed as Forensic Psychology Day, and the proposal was applauded with a standing ovation by all, including Justice Dr. J.N. Bhatt, the chief guest for the occasion, Dr. Jyotsna Yagnik, guest of honor, Dr. J.M. Vyas, Honorable Director General of then Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, and many others who were present over there. As a matter of fact, this historical announcement marks two things. The first is that the discipline of forensic psychology finds its deeper roots in clinical psychology. And the second is that such kind of observation promotes a multidisciplinary forum for the requirements of forensic psychology. Now, I would submit a brief narrative of the charter and responsibilities assigned to this institute, which is now a school. After its conception in 2008, the institute has been looking at the behavioral aspects of crime in a comprehensive way. Very much like National Forensic Sciences University, the School of Behavioral Sciences is a unique setup, a sui generis kind of establishment which addresses all behavioral issues related to criminal justice system. The issues include genesis of crime, exploration and analysis of criminal behavior, investigation of crime, which includes appreciation of evidence collected by law enforcement agencies, and finally, to assist in the reform and rehabilitation of offenders. These responsibilities are discharged through three kinds of activities, and these are training through both academic and non-academic programs, research and consultancy to law enforcement agencies. In pursuit of these activities, the institute maintains laboratories with state-of-the-art equipment such as Polygraph, brain electrical oscillation signature system, layered voice analysis, suspect detection system, eye tracker, and many more. The forensic psychology element is aptly supported by a strong clinical psychology element, which runs an MPhil program in clinical psychology recognized by the Rehabilitation Council of India. It is worth mentioning here that this institute is the only establishment in the state of Gujarat offering an MPhil program in clinical psychology. To train the students and also to rehabilitate the offenders, the institute runs a counseling center which is known to public as Buddha Psychological Service Center or BPSC. It has been recognized by the Gujarat government as the Center for Detection of Specific Learning Disability in Children. We have been doing well, and our success story can be summarized by some of our recent achievements. Even though the last year was an extremely challenging one, and if I may put it in the words of Sir Ratan Tata, an eminent industrialist and visionary from India, what he said, it was an year to survive and not to look for any profit or achievements. Despite that, we had made significant strides. To name a few, we hosted an international congress. We modified all the syllabi so as to make them compatible with the requirements of the clients and industry. The syllabi have been implemented, and I am getting a very positive feedback about the same. More than 10 of our graduates of forensic psychology got placed in Central Forensic Psychology and State Forensic Psychology laboratories. Despite a number of travel and financial restrictions, some of our students and faculty joined PhD programs in reputed universities in Europe and America. We also added 2 new BIOS systems and few other equipment in our armamentarium. On a professional front, we organized 2 major webinars, one on qualitative methods and another on preservation of cognitive abilities. The second was a closed-door event only for the officials of Central Reserve Police Force. In clinical psychology, we organized a continued rehabilitation program under the aegis of Rehabilitation Council of India. We also made a beginning towards starting a new diploma course in clinical psychology. The list is long, but I finish it here with 3 very important and most pleasant announcements. The first is that 5 of our students have been selected for the prestigious MPhil program in clinical psychology in various premier institutions in India. 3 have joined this school itself at NFSU. 1 has joined Raipur and another has gone to prestigious NIMHANS. Let me tell you that selection for this course is extremely difficult and rejection ratio is 799 out of 800. And it's a very tough competition. And only a few with the most deserving ones, they make it. The second pleasant announcement I wish to make is that we are collaborating in almost 19 research projects with various CFSLs and 1 major research project at BPR&D. The third is that we have got a full complement of students in the schools this year with a very good representation of foreign students. I would like to add one final element here, and that is the most significant achievement, and that is a friendship and collaboration with an accomplished industrialist and visionary, Mr. Amir Lieberman, the CEO of Nemesisco. You will hear him and his generous announcements after a few minutes. We plan to observe the coming year as that of consolidation and operational readiness. In this pursuit, we want to produce graduates who should feel at home while working in any forensic setup and should feel at home not only in India but in any part of the world. The foundation of such an effort has already been let down last year when we revised the syllabi. As a continuation of this process, we are going to start forensic investigation of real suspects in a very short frame of time at this school. The process to commission 2 forensic psychologists is in pipeline and the laboratories are getting ready. Initially, we plan to investigate about 20 suspects in a month. We believe that this will fulfill the long-felt need of exposure of students in situ to target population. We have also decided that at least 50% of the dissertations in the coming year will be based on instruments or equipment. We strongly believe that the discipline of forensic psychology will find its proper place only when its practice is evidence-based and scientific. This should be the first step towards endorsement of its contribution to criminal investigation and justice delivery system. The requirement of that is huge. And even if we place 1 forensic psychologist in 1 district headquarters, the requirement is almost 700. A huge requirement indeed. In this context, I would like to quote a small fable. It goes like this. In a junior school, once a teacher asked, "What is the requirement of having brakes in a car?" There were many answers. For example, the answers were so that we can prevent accidents or we can stop in time. Then stood a small girl and she said, "Teacher, the brakes are given so that we can move fast." I want the fraternity of budding forensic psychologists to take this message. The message is that you have to understand your limitations before you plan to move fast. Any method or any investigation which you are using, please understand the limitations in it, and then and only then you please render your opinion. With this message, I would like to finish my conversation with you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dean sir. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for his explanation and relevance of Forensic Psychology Day and charting out the future course of School of Behavioral Sciences, specifically and at large the National Forensic Sciences University in due course of time. Thank you, sir, again. Now, I would request our first special invited speaker, our very own Shri Keshav Kumar sir, to deliver his talk on experiences of ACB with LVA and psychological profiling. Over to you, sir. Kumar sir, shall we play it from here? You have to unmute yourself, sir.
Sir, we have got your presentation with us. Can we play it from here?
Yes, I will ask Rehan. Rehan, am I audible? Yeah, please
Yes,
play.
sir, you're audible.
Yeah, please play the PPT of Shri Keshav Kumar sir.
So just give me a minute. We are sharing the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Rehan.
हाँ करो ना, ट्राई करो, जानते हो तो ट्राई करो ना, हाँ वो लोग कर रहे हैं.
Sir,
Yeah, is it
you
okay?
just need to, yeah, it's audible, sir. You will just need to guide us that when we have to move to the next slide, sir.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay. I welcome all of you and thank all of you for giving this opportunity to a police officer to share his thoughts on investigation and psychology, and especially with reference to the anti-corruption investigations that we have been doing. And I can certainly say I think we would be the first ones to use LVA technology and the psychological profiling in anti-corruption cases. Next, please. Yeah. Now the first question that arose was, how do we get an evidence-based investigation? That was the problem for the Anti-Corruption Bureau. Next. Now, I have related this thing with regard to the methods of interrogation employed. Now, there have been several deaths in the police custody all over the country. And as per the NCRB sources, there are about 85 deaths. I personally feel it is just because of lack of proper interrogation techniques. Next. Now, if you see the high conviction rate in all the investigations, that would include also the anti-corruption. Now, in murder cases, we have 42% conviction rate. Now, my question is, what about those 58%? In hurt cases, the conviction rate is 31%. Now, my question is, what about those 69%? In rape, it's 28% conviction. What about those 72%? In kidnapping and abduction, the rate of conviction is 25%. I am posing a question, what about the 75%? And similarly, in writing, it's 19%. What about those hopping 81% case? So, this is the area that I would like to address through the forensic psychology. Next. Next, please. Yeah. Now, for me, it is also a question of police image. What is the police image that we have today? It is third degree methods used by the investigating officers to extract information and conviction. Now, is there any alternative to it? Next, please. Now, my mathematical, okay. Now, my mathematical equation for conviction is equal to investigation plus forensics. That includes psychology also. Next. Next, please. Yeah. Now Now, the present state of forensic interface is not more than 50% in cognizable offenses, and in modern rape case, it is only 34%. So, we have a huge gap. This gap has to be taken care of. Next. Next, please. Now, what are the challenges of policing in the modern world? Next. I think we are facing a dilemma. Now, what is that dilemma for a police officer when he starts investigating a case? Next. The first thing is whether the person whom he is interrogating is speaking truth or is speaking lies. Is there any touchstone? How psychology can possibly come to our rescue in this matter? Next. Now, is there any non-invasive technique of interrogation? This is what impels me something different other than the conventional methods of interrogation. Next. Now, herein starts the interface between a police officer and a forensic psychologist. Next. Now, I went through the American Psychological Association. Now, what is the role of a psychologist? They are committed to increasing scientific and professional knowledge of behavior and people's understanding of themselves and others. Next. They are also using this such knowledge to improve the conditions of individuals, organizations, and society. Next. So they have a big role to play. Now, with this intention, I was also wanting to do some work in the methods of investigation. So I have registered for a PhD at the National Forensic Sciences University based on psychological-based investigation techniques, ethics, application, and effectiveness in criminal trials. Next. Now, is psychological-based techniques, is it a vital aid to detection and prosecution? This is the question that I'm asking, and I would be addressing. Next. Now comes the role of anti-corruption investigation. Now, how have these psychological methods helped us in anti-corruption investigation? Next. Now, if you see the number of cases that have been registered in the Anti-Corruption Bureau, beginning from 2016 when I took over, it was 258, then there is slid down by 140, 255 and 199. So 2018 was the biggest year for us with regard to registration of cases. This can give you and quantify the huge task that is ahead of us. Next. Now, what has been the conviction rate? Now, with the use of so many other methods other than the psychological methods, there is an increase in the conviction rate from 23% in 2016 to 40% as on date. So almost double. I would give a major role to the forensics in this. Now, this forensics would also include the psychological aspects of investigation. Next. Now, whenever we start investigating a case in anti-corruption, what are the common problems felt by us? This is none else but whether he is speaking lies or whether he is speaking truth. This is the most important problem for all of us. Next. So now we come to a new technology that I came to know in 2008 from the Forensic Science Laboratory, and it is the layered voice analysis. Next. Now, this is the company that has made the layered voice analysis, and we have been using in Forensic Science Laboratory from 2008. When I joined the Central Bureau of Investigation in 2010, thereafter, we also started using it in CBI. And now we will see the numbers in forthcoming charts, which will show that the numbers are increasing. Next. Now just take, for example, the cases that have been having the interface of layered voice analysis. In 2017, it was 25, 2018, 45, 2019, 50, and 2020, it was 60. So, there has been a constant increase. Now, this particular increase is an indicative of the fact that, yes, this system has been helping the Anti-Corruption Bureau. And I'm very grateful to the two forensic psychologists who are right now present with us, Dr. Amita Shukla and Dr. Hema Acharya, who have been helping us with the LVA. Next. Now, in both these forms, the online form and the offline form. We have been getting number of cases, but more so on the offline front, because this LVA has been only at Gandhinagar level, whereas our unit is all over the state. So it becomes at times becomes difficult for getting an online done. So we have been more or less focusing on offline, but in many of cases we also have had the online LVA tests. Next. Now, with the advancement in thinking of anti-corruption investigation, I thought upon an idea that why not have an interrogation room, a conventional interrogation room, also integrated with the layered voice analysis. And I'm very grateful to the government of Gujarat who accepted this proposal, and they have been able to clear the first ever interrogation room, which will be LVA enabled. Very shortly is going to be commissioned. And I'm very sure that with this interrogation room with LVA at our facility, at our command, the number is going to rise tremendously. And I'm sure the results also would be forthcoming. So I'm very happy with LVA that we have been able to get very types of good of evidences and also the direction in the investigation. So what is important is not only direction, but also the speed. So LVA has helped us not only with direction, but also speeding up the investigation. I think this could be the biggest contribution of LVA in the anti-corruption investigation in Gujarat. That would be the only anti-corruption unit in the country to have been used this. Next. Now, the other thing that we have been doing is the psychological scene of profiling. Now, this again is a new concept in anti-corruption investigation. And again, I would like to compliment Dr. Hema Acharya, Dr. Mita Shukla, Dr. Vyas, and all those people who have been helping us with the psychological forms of investigation. Next. I would be discussing about certain and also profiling the criminal mind, which these people have been doing. Next. Now, what I was thinking that, there are so many evidences that comes across to an investigator. Now, how to connect these psychological dots? This was the major problem. Like, number of evidences that come across with us, which get documented, but it doesn't get connected. What is important for investigation is connecting these dots with the investigation. And only then we'll be able to realize the evidentiary value of those psychological dots, what I claim. Next. Now, certain success stories vis-a-vis LVA and vis-a-vis criminal psychological profiling. Next. Now, this Sumandeep University case in which the trap was of 20 lakhs of rupees. Now, very certain things that came to our mind, which got documented. But what was the evidentiary value of it? For that purpose, we come to this next slide. Next. When the person had to enter the office of the vice chancellor, it was almost like frisking, He would be frisked tremendously. Now, this, for me, this is a psychological dot. Now, how to convert this into an evidence? That was the challenge. Next. Now, whenever you have to enter his office, you have to take out the specs, you have to keep away the bag, you have to remove your watch, you have to remove your belt, you have to remove the pen, you have to remove the mobile phone, the ring, the wallet, and all these keychains and all these things. Now, for me, this is just an information. But how to convert this information, what I call the psychological dots, how does it speak about the person's mind? Now, this is precisely the bridge that was bridged by the psychologist of the forensic science lab. Next. Now, the other things found in his office were a calculator, CCTV, a currency counting machine, some paper slips, some checks, and hard cash. Now, of all these things, the most important thing is what has the currency counting machine got to do in the office of a vice chancellor? What does that indicate? It doesn't indicate anything else other than a massive inflow of cash, whereas each and everything is through checks. So, this psychological dot got converted into a psychological piece of evidence, with the help of the psychologists. Next. Yeah, this is the currency counting machine that was found in the office. Next. Now, the amount had to be delivered at a different place. Now, why different place? This is again a psychological dot. Next. Now, this is yet another case in which the inspector of Anti-Corruption Bureau, he was trapped getting a bribe of 18 lakhs of rupees. Now, very interesting facts came out in this investigation. Next. The person asked the bribe giver to come to a place which was just approaching a bridge. Now, my question was, why bridge? Why not at any other places? Why not in the hotel where he was staying? Now, this is again a psychological dot, which was addressed by the psychological experts, because this opening of the bridge was leading to the area of Rajkot, so that the vehicles that are coming from front, they do not come in contact, and he can immediately take the money and run away on the highway. Next. Now, this was the jeep in which the money was kept, and that was kept in a bag. Now, the issue is why the rear window was used, because it didn't want to come in physical contact with it. Next. Now, this is the place where the jeep was standing and the bribe money had to be delivered. Now, what is the significance of this place? I asked the question, why this particular place? Now, this is a psychological thought, which again gets connected. Next. Now, this was on the highway. The jeep had to be there, just approaching the highway, approaching the overbridge. Next. The money was kept inside a bag, a sweet box, and that was supposed to be the prasad, so that no one doubts about it. Now, this is again a psychological thought that got converted into a physical evidence. Next. Then, in the Surat case, there are certain things about the investigation in which the entire office was profiled. Next. This is the office where the bribe was being taken. Next. Inside the office, this is the scene. Right now, the crime scene profiling is underway, and they are trying to understand the whole thing. Next. This is the office. Just see the scene of crime. Next. Now, what is important next? Now, what is important in this scene of crime is the money was found hidden. Next. Money was found hidden below the chair, below the carpet, below the mattress, inside the books, on the computer table, inside the wardrobe. Now, what does that indicate of that person? Why money is kept at such places in the office? This again was criminally profiled. That yes, it is something odd that one has to hide the currency at some other place. Now, these all get connected through psychological profiling in an anti-corruption case. Next. Now, my thanks to our forensic psychologist, Dr. Hemacharya, Dr. Amita Shukla. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Next. Next. I would like to prescribe some prescriptions. The first prescription is that there has to be synergy between police and forensic psychology experts. Next. Now, training and awareness building in the law enforcement agencies. Next. Now, rewarding the forensic psychologist whose investigations lead to detection of a crime and receives judicial recognition. And in very many cases, the LVA reports have been duly appreciated by the honorable courts. Next. Now, thanking you for participation in this important mission. Thanking you so much. Next. Thank you. Any question?
Thank you. Thank you, Kumar sir. We are really thrilled. It was really a nice session, interesting talk from your end. That you proposed connecting the dots both from the primary evidence perspective and also the psychological profiling, which might lead to the vital aid in detection and proceeding of criminal offenses, especially when we talk about anti-corruption cases. There are certain questions. One question I will pose to you because we are running short of time. Shreyansh Chopra, he has posed a question. Does death in custody may be circumstantial?
Yeah, that's true. It is just a representative fact. I'm not going into the merits, how the death in custody took place. Very many times, it happens that the death is due to unusual reasons. I'm
Right.
just trying to bridge that issue. I'm not talking about the figures. I'm just trying to bridge that. This can possibly be prevented if we have psychological methods of investigation. That is what is my point.
And he is asking another question subsequent to this, that how behavioral aspects would help in investigating or solving a particular case.
Yeah, this is what I've been speaking during my presentation. That is what I'm telling, how psychological dots are getting connected forensically. This is precisely what I've been saying in my presentation.
Right. So I think you have already answered the second
Yeah.
part of his question. So thank you, Kumar sir, for your valuable time. We all know that you are a very busy police officer right now
Yeah,
working.
right now I'm in Rajkot, I'm
Yes,
not in
sir. Yes,
Ahmedabad.
sir. We were informed. Thank you. We are indebted for your precious time, sir.
Thank you, Amir. Nice meeting, Amir. Thanks.
Thank
You'll
you.
get my letter shortly.
Thank you. Okay, distinguished guest, now we will move ahead in this session. And now I would request Mr. Amir Lieberman, the CEO of NIMISCO, to speak on layered voice analysis, past, present, and future. And his session, I would request Professor C.R. Mukundan, sir, Emeritus Professor, to chair it. And I would now move ahead to Mr. Amir Lieberman. Sir, please share your PowerPoint presentation.
Sorry, is everybody? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, yes. You're audible, sir.
Wonderful. Do you see my screen?
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Wonderful. So, okay, thank you so much for this very warm introduction, and it's been a very deep honor for me to work with you guys and to work with your esteemed team. I must say before I really begin, it has been such a pleasure to work with the university, and the inspiration that I see from the students is just remarkable. I get sometimes students calling me on LinkedIn, which is really warming my heart because it means they are brave. It means they are seeking more information. And for me, that's the most important thing, really, especially when we talk about research. I just wanted to put everything in context. I would like to talk today about the LVA, where it came from, what was the inspiration, where we are today, and where we want to take it in the future. I don't know if everybody knows that, but the inspiration started with a terror attack in Israel in 1997. This is a terror attack. It was very small these days. I hate to say it this way, but only 3 mothers were murdered at that incident. And this baby was taken by this police officer from the scene of terror attack. And watching that on the news in Israel was the trigger point to create the whole technology. The mission was to build a lie detector, to build something that will help us very quickly determine if a person coming into the country should be further detained and investigated, or can we just let him in? The original idea was to build a system that combines many different elements, such as infrared camera, such as polygraph measurements, and something that was known back then as voice stress analysis technology or computerized voice stress analysis technology, which is an old technology invented back in the 60s of the previous century. The idea there, that was actually a strategic decision to focus on the voice. That was a fierceful fight at the beginning between VSA technology and layered voice analysis technology. Eventually, of course, we won by knockout. In general, just to put everything in context, for those of you not that familiar with LVA, just to put things in context, voice analysis is actually three different things. When we talk about voice analysis, people talk about sometimes the uniqueness of the voice, identifying a person throughout the voice. Nemesisco has nothing to do with that. Sometimes we talk about understanding the emotional message, or the textual message, what the person actually says. And this again has nothing to do with what we do. We care not about the language, we care not about the dialect. You can speak in any type of language around the world, and we've tested that. And the LVA is just as effective in all these cases. Then comes the sentiment analysis, which is really the emotions that are reflected in the voice. Keeping in mind that what we had in mind to build is a lie detector. Obviously, nobody ever came to the investigation room and make a special voice when he was lying, right? You don't do that when you are investigated. So we try to keep our voice as investigated people. We try to keep our voice as normal as possible and be as convincing as possible. So it was very, very clear that we should not be affected by the emotions conveyed in the voice. If I will now say something in a very aggressive way, then some would expect the system to say that I was angry, but I wasn't angry, right? I was just pretending to be, or I was just acting angry. Deep inside, I feel something that is very different. This is where LVA technology lives. LVA lives in the subphonetic elements of the voice and is much, much deeper than everything else that is around us. So how it all began, first attempt, as I mentioned, was duplicating voice stress analysis. That generation failed. Generation 2 was actually released, but combining a minimal set of elements. And that minimal set of elements went to the public mostly as a game. So we can collect a lot of data, we can create initial funds, we can get response from the market, and we can, in fact, invest in building the next generation. But then again, generation 3, 4, and 5 of the technology, again, they did not meet the needed accuracy rates and the needed passing criteria. And at the end, only LVA 6, and that was about a year later, that was released for security use. LVA 6, the first version that was released was release 6.21. What is different between LVA and standard phonetics? Standard phonetics, as we talked about, speak about cues that we can hear and can control, things that relate to the way we pronounce ourselves. And in essence, these are elements in the voice that are exceeding or longer than 20 milliseconds. When we talk about LVA, we talk about the unique uncontrolled biomarkers of the voice. It is actually protected by 2 patents, but these only cover about 5% of the technology, to be frank. And we talk about the indicators that are left in the voice when we try to suppress everything else. I may be very nervous, but I will hear myself and I will regulate my voice so I can make myself sound more calm or more confident. But the traces are still there in the places where we cannot hear. This is what we call the genuine sensation, and these are normally presented in very low amplitude and in very short time frames, much shorter than the 20 milliseconds that is normally used by phonetics. As I mentioned, the idea was to build a lie detector, but lie detection as a word is misleading. If I will ask a person now to tell me, are you a green duck? And these experiments have been made around the world in certain periods of time. Are you a green duck? Is your name Donald Duck? Are you the Queen of England? And people would say, yes, I am. The system hardly registered any of these. And that was actually creating a big challenge, because how do you prove the system really works? The idea was that it was very, very quickly understood that we have to create a situation that is real, that would create a real effect on the person's psychosis, on the person's psychological state. So it will be jumping out of homeostasis in a very extreme manner. The challenge that we faced with LVA was that, unlike with other methods of polygraph and other things, in a polygraph, or the body reaction is very similar to all emotions. If I am excited, if I am confused, if I am stressed, if I get angry, if I feel pain, the polygraph would make a spike. But in the voice, suddenly we discovered things look very different. And in fact, we've discovered these 8 main channels of emotions. If you talk about energy, if we talk about stress, if we talk about emotion and logic, passion and thinking, concentration and embarrassment and uneasiness. And when we try to combine all of this, it's a bit more complicated mathematical mechanism, but eventually we can create a profile that is the homeostasis of a person and calculate deviations from that point. LVA 650 was the older generation. LVA 6 was used by interrogators, by profilers. It is used for all these various security-related missions. But what we came to understand is that it is, voice analysis, it does sound simple, but it's not that trivial. We have to remember that voice is sensitive measurement. It is affected by the noise. It is affected by the equipment. It is affected by compressions and other things. It is affected also by irrelevant stimulus because in some cases, on some use cases of LVA, we cannot control the environment. It is also very important to understand what is the components of lying with our own persona, with our own perspective. So what is really a lie? Is it the moment when I decide that if I tell the truth, something bad will happen to me? We call it the deceptive circuit. Suddenly we realize that telling the truth is not good for us. We have to think out of the box, quickly invent something. Maybe we come prepared for that. Maybe it's something that is spontaneous. Then there is the contract, the agreement between the investigator and the investigatee. And these are something that is very important because if I allow you to lie, there is no risk. There is no jeopardy. There has to be a contract that means I'm investigating you. You are not supposed to lie to me. You will tell me the truth. If you will lie to me, you will get punished. This type of contract between the parties create the needed anxiety and the needed emotional states to be reflected in the voice and to be caught. Then, of course, there has to be a carrot and a stick. If there is no jeopardy and no treat, there is, again, less reaction. And of course, there is something that we've discovered. It's about the subject own morality or moral perception. Some people, when they say, I'm wearing a black shirt, when it's actually very dark gray, will feel very bad about not telling the truth. And some people are far, far more easy on the truth. So when you combine all these elements together, we understand that voice analysis for risk assessment is actually statistics. And the more components we have, the more ability we have to control over the variances, we improve the statistics of getting the right answer. Now we're talking about LVA 7. LVA 7 is the current version of the technology. LVA 650 or LVA 6 was using 126 biomarkers. LVA 7 used 151. LVA 650 was using 16 compiled parameters or basic parameters. LVA 7 already breaks it down to 51. We had difference between online functionality and offline functionality in 6. In 7, these are the same. LVA 6 was very resource consuming. LVA 7 is far more resource conservative, so it can allow much bigger spread and much more concurrent analysis to be compiled or to be completed on the same computer. And of course, LVA 6 is not using AI. LVA 7 as a technology combines both AI and some statistical analytics system. From the set of parameters, LVA 650 was using the emotional related parameters, logical conflict related parameters, stress, and stable state parameters. In LVA 7, we also discovered a whole new family of energy related parameters. Energy states for aggression is actually the fight flight in the fight part in the fight or flight symptom. And again, we've created this concept of the emotional diamond to show natural emotions, not necessarily related to lie, but it also exposed us to many more additional emotions, such as the anger, sadness, happiness, and sometimes personality traits and depression and some other clinical states, which we find very important, both serving the criminal and investigative world, but also serving the intelligence world and the commercial and financial worlds. Today, when we take the technology, and again, these are sets of different solutions that we use the technology for, but I'm sure everybody that sees these applications can think about the counterpart in the security arena as well. Inton or QA7 technology listens to multiple calls in a call center state, analyzes both sides of the conversation, and comes up with indications and insight about problematic words, problematic calls, problematic customers, and problematic agents, and foresee issues to come. R87 is a solution that we use today for risk assessment, fraud prevention, KYC, know your customer, and serving banks and insurance companies. Of course, credit risk assessment as well. Credit risk assessment is actually tricky and may be relevant to mention the differences here, because credit risk assessment talks about future actions. While when we investigate crimes, we normally investigate past events. But in order to assess the future, as we all know, we are not fortune tellers and we're not using any of these equipment. And so in order to properly assess the future, we need to learn facts from the past. Credit risk assessment tools allow us to do that much faster. And again, serving probably a lot of government entities, giving loans or promoting small businesses. This system can go and serve these purposes too. We have a solution today that is taking the entire knowledge of the LVA7 together, sometimes with AI, together with some profiling, and serving the recruitment business or the recruitment processes, both for police and for government entities, as well as for the general public. We are now building also tools that allow us to allows more control over drivers, control over kids in remote applications, understanding emotional state of different parties when they are communicating on a daily or constant basis. It can be drivers, it can be guards, it can be employees in different facilities. And very important, this is one of my favorite topics of activity today, is really assisting telemedicine and assisting remote understanding of serving elderlies. We talked about detecting some problems with kids sometimes, about ADD and ADHD, but also about acute stress and post-traumatic stress disorders. These can all be identified even remotely and even over the phone. Today, we also offer solutions over cloud services. So we have different sets of services for the commercial world, for the entertainment world, and of course, for the security and the more professional world. And we also came up with a set of entertainment tools for the television shows. In India, it was in Big Boss, which is the equivalent of Big Brother, and we did some things with Euro Disney and others. What is the future? What is the future holding us? And maybe that would be LVA 8 forever. And maybe it will still be with LVA 7. Some things are in development today. Indeed, we talk about the future investigation room. The future investigation room, we want to see it combining different technologies with the proper set of microphones, with the proper set of analysis, and with the all the facilities that would help expedite and deliver more accurate results in the investigative and criminal investigative session. We also talk about remote investigation. This is something that is, we started developing it actually for UEFA in Europe, for the soccer organization, where they have to deal a lot of times with remote investigations and dealing with different types of crimes with high-profile players sometimes. And the idea there that we started now promoting into the HLS world and into the police world as well is building an entity that has the capability to intervene in remote investigations. So whenever there is a need, we can open an iPad, we can open a phone, connect to an investigator that is trained with LVA, run the analysis on the ongoing investigation, report back to the investigator in his ear, and assist effect remote investigations. Of course, we can collect intelligence data. Of course, we can talk with informants. We can do a lot of intelligence work, and in fact, provide services to many different sections in the organization that can serve as our clients for this intel analysis. My challenge, and this is something that is personally my challenge, we want also to start working on the DSM, the standard DSM for psychiatrists. We want to build this into voice parameters. LVA 7, in fact, come up with, sorry. LVA 7, in fact, comes with multiple parameters that break down the emotions that we could see from LVA 650, and differentiating between high level of awareness to low level of awareness, high level of cognitive activity to low level of cognitive activity, measuring the different emotions both in terms of duration and in terms of amplitude. And so we know, and we know that it gives a lot of more data, but we also believe that this could be very useful for classification of different mental illnesses, as well as, of course, mental states. We also have today solutions that are made for recruitment, that are made on the cloud. We can have interviews taken by any internet browser or in any internet-based session, identify portions that are, this is really taking all the knowledge that we know from LVA and compressing it down to a single icon saying, you're good to go, or there is a warning sign there, which we believe can be very useful for a lot of recruitment agencies, but also for, in the right context, also for the HLS world. One of my favorite is actually the personality test. If you think about personality, and we mentioned that a lot in this session already, personality is actually today based on either observation or on self-report. But when you look at it from recruitment point of view, when I have no knowledge about the person, what can LVA really teach us? And we've now created a set of tests. This has already been completed. We are waiting some last validations, and it will be released. But the idea is to help the candidates to talk about different aspects of work, measure their emotional reactions. We can differentiate if that's a good one or a bad one, if they have a good experience or bad experience, and we can then relate to the way that we expect them to behave in the long run. If somebody really has a lot of stress talking about working in a group, but is very comfortable and very relaxed talking about working alone, we don't care too much about the words. He may say, yes, I love working in a team, but actually his experience is talking differently. Then we will identify the history and the stress coming from the history, negative experience, and not relating to the words, helping us to really determine what would be the strengths and weaknesses, the real strengths and weaknesses, not the reported ones, the real strengths and weaknesses of the person we are testing. What I would like to propose in this context is to see if we can, in fact, identify some personality traits that would be indicative for a criminal, or what of different types of criminals. Maybe these are, the white, the white crimes or blue crimes, but maybe these are some indicators that we can identify violent crimes in advance. Maybe we can identify the people that have zero morale and are very happy to take what is not theirs in any other context. So this is really something that maybe we can further explore. We also look at the future about applying the tools for different cars or different personal assistants. Just imagine the car that loves you. Just imagine the car that understands who you are and the colors fit properly, and the driving style fit properly. And it can also assess if you had a little drink or maybe had a little smoke, and can protect you better just by understanding from the way you speak. And of course, last but not least, when we talk about the future of things to come, we talk a lot about robots. We have applications today that are in the beginning of being implemented in robots, and in fact affecting the artificial AI, or the AI, the artificial logical decision, and make it empowered by understanding of personality of the person speaking with the robot or person interacting with the robot, and its current emotional state. And we believe that no AI can really be applied serving humans if it doesn't understand the emotional context and the emotional personality of the person they interact with. That's where we are. That's where we want to be. And this is where we are going for. And I would love to have your questions.
Thank you, sir. It was really, really thrilling experience for all of you. As you can see, the invited guests are already raising their thumbs. We were really thrilled to hear from you, sir. You covered almost from the scratch. Means most of our participants who have joined remotely in the live YouTube streaming channel, they are students. So I assume that they have understood the basic voice analysis parameters and how this LVA technique it evolved through the generations which you have talked about, and why the emotional profiling to risk assessment is correlated, and why voice analysis for risk assessment is basically a science based on statistics. And the recent development which you talked about, LVA in the version 7, which has more than 51 parameters, if I'm putting it correctly, which talks about the emotional and the personality aspects to a certain extent. So that's an added advantage, I guess, not only for the interrogation, but also for academicians like us who can learn from it. There are a couple of questions. The house is open for questions. If any of the dignitaries who are participating now, they can also raise a question in the chat box, or they can ask Mr. Amir directly.
Please.
Or I'll go ahead with the YouTube questions.
May I? I wish to submit a question.
Yes, sir, please.
Sir, in the initial validation of the technology, what kind of experiments they were done, and what kind of simulation was instilled in the experiments?
Well, you are touching a very interesting point, because this is actually something. I am wearing this shirt today, and this shirt is only about self-report. This is in fact presenting the challenge of doing validation studies on emotions. People don't necessarily state those. People not necessarily even know that they are, in acute state of stress. And so, of course, the very first trials were made on friends and colleagues, and in creating different sets of simulations that we know will create a certain type of emotions, and then validating this situation. The very first test we did, and in fact, the very first parameter we identified, SPJ, if you recall from LVA, that was created with a Stroop test. So we created a Stroop test because a Stroop test would create very similar responses in a polygraph. And if you show a person a card saying blue, but in red color, and you ask him what color do you see, the mind is confused, the body reacts, and in polygraph that looks like a line. But in LVA, it suddenly came up only as a very first indicator, only on the SPJ parameters. Whenever there was truth, there was SPJ. Whenever we are talking about people about very fearful events, things that were expected to create a lot of stress, we've seen the JQ parameter coming up. And so making understanding from all these indicators, it was a challenge, no doubt about it. But the idea was to, again, because the liability at the very beginning was very low. We were working on ourselves, we were working for an entity here in Israel, but that the liability was very low, so we could assume, we could guess. And so we've created a system. I created a system, but there were others to assist me, of course, that we then took to the field. We've presented situations. We have to remember it was 24 years ago. The market was very different. There was no GDPR. Privacy rules were very different. We had access to a lot of materials that today is impossible to get, really. And from all these type of situations, from all these type of extreme cases, we could identify the parameters that behave differently in different sets of situations. I remind you that the intention was to build a lie detector, not to focus on the emotions. But focusing on the emotion, I was never looking for stress. But stress was something that, an indication that came up in very strange situations. When people were talking about very specific things. Then yes, then we had to create a test for every single emotion. So for the test, for the stress, for example, we asked people to talk about 10 aspects of their lives and comparing the JQ in all these topics, and then creating a situation where we say, okay, so you're most concerned about work, you're most concerned about financial states, you're more concerned about that, please grade. And so these were the very first validation studies. This was actually done in the university in Sweden, in Umeå. It was a very interesting research, very successful. 80% of the cases, we actually hit the right, not the right, we actually hit the topic that the person admitted to be most stressed about. Even in this blind test, because we always selected 3 topics, and it was one of them, and it was always the one that he admitted that related to the high stress. Same about excitement, same about anger. Anger is actually pretty easy because we take recordings from call centers and you can identify those. Same for excitement, same from the other thing. This is the only way to really measure it is using real life data. You cannot fake the anger, you cannot fake the lie because you have no jeopardy. So it has to be, this was the biggest challenge in the developing of the technology. Basic parameters are very similar since there was 24 years ago. It's only the validation that took all this time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Amir. We have a question from faculty Dr. Nandita Chaube in the chat box. If a person is not perceiving any kind of threat or stress to the question being asked, will layered voice analysis be still useful? Or the investigator has to plan a question in such a way that it must produce some stress in the suspect?
Well, we will always get what the person feels, okay? The whole concept that we are trying to promote is not to look at LVA as a determining tool such as lie detector, not lie detector, but it is in fact a microscope. Whatever you put under the plate, and the better the lenses, the clearer the lenses are, the better you will get the responses. And in this situation, if the person has no intention to, no need to hide, no gain, no pain, there will be no reaction in many cases. This is also true, even in polygraph, you get sometimes people that are truthful and come up deceptive. There are people that are deceptive and come up truthful. In this situation, the cases are very special because in order for me not to create any reaction, I have to feel that the fight is over. If I feel that I was caught red-handed, there's no consequences to what I'm doing. There will be no reaction. And this is why designing experiments with LVA is very, very important. It has to be done in the right way. It has to be done on real-life materials, and it has to be done where the person really has something to gain or lose. Was that answering the question?
Yes, she thanked us. So, Amita, Miss Amita Shukla, she wanted to. Yes, ma'am. Over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, yes. Good evening. Good evening. I just want to know if the 7 warning is connected with the lie detector also. Hello?
The LVA 7.
Yeah.
LVA 7.
LVA 7 actually have 3 different formulas to assess risk. We no longer call it lie detection because, again, lie detection
So, what I
is
will
very confusing.
connect with the lie detector?
LV7 is compatible with the lie detector, a polygraphic system. We can combine both the techniques together. I think that's what Shukla ma'am is.
We can because actually in LVA 7 we also have a sub technology called OZ.
Yeah.
And OZ is in fact created to create a very simple indicator about what we call the objective reaction level. Now, this is something that is very important with LVA to understand, because LVA by nature is doing the calibration line and therefore measure the person against himself. This is why the LVA is a subjective technology, subjective assessment technology. It tests me against myself. In LVA 7, we've added the OZ element, which is actually objective. It tests my level of reaction against the known norms of the population, which is then adding a different layer of the risk assessment. And then there is a layer that combines all both of them.
Okay, so I've been practiced in polygraph many cases. So I asked that question regarding connecting with the LVA to polygraph. Okay, so
It may serve as an additional channel, but what we recommend to do when we talk about polygraph is actually use it in the pre-test interview.
yeah.
And then in the pre-test interview, you see what are the topics that are more sensitive, and then you can further direct the questions in the polygraph to hit exactly the point.
And one more request from my side, from the DFS side, we will pleasure if you give promotional video regarding LVA then.
We don't have a promotional video at the moment,
LVA, okay, sir.
but we will share materials with you. If you
Okay, thank you, sir.
the way we want to cooperate now with the GFSU is really to work much closer together, so we can share much more knowledge about the future things.
We have a real cases. So we have a real cases over here at DFS. So I'm very pleased if you are doing something like that then. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. So yes, we will cooperate with the GFSU so the information can be kept private within the realms where it should be, and we will provide the tools and we will provide the guidance, and we will be very happy to work with you and assist. I'm available for any further questions you may have, online or offline. Okay.
Right. So thank you for your generosity. Now I'm going to take 2 more questions. Students are really want to trouble you, I guess. So one question is from Polemy Ghosh. She is asking, at a point of time where the idea of privacy is nearly absent, can technologies such as LVA be used by governments to reduce people's freedom of expression, especially communist countries like China?
Well,
It's more like a political or philosophical question, but I thought of having your insight into this.
Look, every technology can be used, pro and for the good and for the bad. And the reality is that, we can pick up people in extreme emotional states, okay? But we don't know what they're talking about. And if we monitor multiple conversations, in many cases, when we pick up the indicators, these are kids screaming, and the most angry calls I ever seen in mass analysis systems were kids screaming about their parents. Why didn't you come up and pick me? Why there is no dinner? And so, from the emotional point of view, look, if you have someone in custody, you can also use the polygraph. This is not an issue. And polygraph is also effective when you are silent. Okay, we know that. So if there is a need, there will be a way, unfortunately, for non-democratic governments to use any type of tool to get what they want. It is up to the people really to be in control and to make sure we make the right selections and we make the right movements. Yet, from the Cisco point of view, we try to limit our working with negative governments. That's the truth.
Right. Another one last question, I guess, because we still have a couple of minutes before we move on to the next speaker. So Ocean Baiju, she is asking, or he is asking, how does the term lie detection misleading?
Okay, when we talk about lie detection as a principle, one may say, okay, sir, are you the Queen of Finland? Please say yes.
Yes.
If you will tell me yes now, okay, did it create anything for you? But some would argue that you were lying. It wasn't a lie. It was a joke, okay? There is no system in the world that can pick up lies. That's, anybody working with the polygraph or anyone working with any type of equipment like that can tell you. And this is why it's a nice catchy phrase that television may use or newspapers may use, but we know the reality. And the reality is that we identify changes in the homeostasis state. It can be indicative of a lie, it can be indicative of a pain, it can be indicative of a conflict. But these are the essence, these are the facts. Okay. I hope that provided my view on this statement.
Yes, sir. I assume so. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your very interesting and thought-provoking address. And we would like to express a deep sense of gratitude for making yourself available for today's scientific session. Now we will move ahead to the next speaker, next invited speaker.
If I may just add one more thing about there is a special relationship with the GFSU, and we are speaking currently with Mr. Dean. We will be looking forward to expanding some type of collaboration. Maybe we will be creating some programs to support students, and we're looking at some type of proper certification from the Cisco even to students in the field of LVA. And with that, we will keep the details with Mr. Dean, and Honorable Dean will be sharing that with you guys in a later phase. Is that okay?
Yes, it will be very good, a very nice gesture from you, sir. What I propose, actually, I had already written to you that, the areas in which you wish us, to investigate further, probably those topics can be sent to us, and then we can have a deliberation on that, and we can allot these topics to the students who are interested in doing that, and then we can allot the mentors.
Wonderful.
Then it will supplement your ambition also. So they'll be contributing to the growth of technology and growth of the know-how.
Thank you very much, sir. This is very, very nice to hear that. Thank you.
Wonderful talk, sir. I'm again reiterating thank you for your time. Now we will move ahead to the next session. May I request now Dr. Hema Acharya, Assistant Director, DFS Gandhinagar, to share her views on users' perspective challenges in layered voice analysis as the second invited speaker. Along with it, I will also request Mrs. Amita Shukla, Deputy Director, DFS Gandhinagar, to chair the session. Over to you, Dr. Hema.
Thank you, Prashant, sir.
Welcome, ma'am.
I think if you just give me 1 or 2 minutes, a brief introduction about her, I would like to submit to this audience. I think the Director General of Police, Mr. Keshav Kumar himself, has praised her, I mean, to such an extent, so that itself defines her personality and dedication to the job. She actually doesn't need any introduction, and she has been a visiting teacher at this university, even though she is working in DFS, but she is very much part of this university and this school. And we always appreciate her contribution and her dedication and her methodology, her tutelage and everything for our school and for our university. So I thought, I don't have your biodata here, but I'm sure if I start rating your biodata, it will take more than 15 minutes. So therefore, I'm not going to do that. So you please start with your presentation, madam.
Thank you, sir. Prashant, sir, I'm not able to upload it from here. Maybe can you help me out?
Okay, Rehan, sir. Rehan, are you there? Ramya?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you play Hema ma'am's PowerPoint?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just give me a minute, sir.
Sure, sure, sure.
Sir, I have to go in the window only, no?
Oh, you want to? Yes, just go into the present now. First, open your PPT, PowerPoint.
I have
Don't
opened
bring
it.
it down. Okay, then go to present now and then press on window. Then a pop-up will come.
Which is share and cancel.
Yes, in the pop-up, you can see the different window screens. So select the PPT. You have to select that PPT. Once you select that PPT, you can share. The share button will become blue.
No, I'm not able to.
Yes, yes, it's working.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I can do that.
The PPT in the full screen mode.
Now I have to do this.
Come back to the PPT. Look into the PowerPoint. Your screen will be visible only with the PPT. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Can you see, sir?
No, we cannot see it because
Ma'am, you probably shared the Chrome tab as a
yeah.
window.
Oh. Just a minute. Now can you see me?
No, you come out of the this sharing thing, stop presenting, and again do the same exercise, but with the PPT, PowerPoint.
I'm gonna stop presentation.
Yeah, go to present now, ma'am.
Window. Okay, yes,
Yeah.
I've got it now, sir. I have to select this and then share, right?
Right.
Yes, all that.
Perfect.
Yeah. Now, is it okay, sir?
Yeah. Just go for the full screen mode, please. You can press F5.
I have done the face. Can you see my slides, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. It is visible very much.
Okay. Probably I cannot see. Okay. Thank you, Prashant, sir, for your introduction. 21st January was announced as a Forensic Psychology Day in the DFS premises only in 2011. Since then, we are celebrating the Forensic Psychology Day in DFS. The objective of celebration of this day is to promote and create awareness for the forensic psychology and envisage the scope of forensic psychology in India. On behalf of Forensic Psychology team, I would thank Dr. Vyas sir, our Honorable Director General sir, who has believed in us and has motivated us of our endeavors. Under his acumen guidance, the Forensic Psychology Department of Gandhinagar has been able to give outstanding results in some of the noted and controversial cases. Today, once again, I'm happy and proud to be a part of this celebration. The Directorate of Forensic Science is known for its unique experiments and adaptation to new scientific technology. One of the technology is the BEOS test, that's the Brain Electrical Oscillation Signature Profiling. I would like you to mention that the DFS Gandhinagar is the first laboratory in India to establish the BEOS test. With the help of BEOS test, we have detected and given lead to sensitive and sensational cases like Nithari case, lion poaching case, and the recent one, Gudia murder case of Himachal Pradesh. The inventor of BEOS test and the renowned neuropsychologist and emeritus professor of NFSU, Professor Dr. C.R. Mukundan sir, is today with us on this forum. Sir, I thank you for giving us BIOS technique. Through this technique, BFS has not only helped the investigation agencies, but has also helped the criminal justice system in Gujarat and in India. The success of the application of this technique was so huge that BFS started receiving different types of cases from different states and by different state and central agencies. In BIOS test, as you can see in the first slide, to record the EEG, the electrogel cap, and the sensors to the subject. Yes, sir.
Ma'am, please come into your PPT.
I have shown a PPT code.
Yeah, we can see the PPT, but it's not moving. You have to press the this down arrow. You have to play the PPT.
It is there. Can you see?
Just press F5.
Okay.
Dr. Hema, you can see only the first slide in your PPT. You are not moving ahead. That is the thing.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but probably ma'am has shared the
Screen.
presentation view slides. She has not shared probably the video of the presentation mode, the slideshow mode.
Oh.
Okay, Ramya, can you play the PPT?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll do that.
Okay.
Ma'am, just stop the presentation so that we can present it from over here.
Okay. Now, can you wait a minute? Huh?
Stop the presentation.
Yes, ma'am. We are able to see it now.
Yes. You come out of the presentation.
Wait a minute, sir. I'll come out of the presentation.
Right.
Okay. Now?
Ramya will play for you. You have to just say next. Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so I don't need to present it, right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
Yes. Next slide.
Can you go on the second slide, please? Yeah, thank you. So as I said that through BIOS test, we have cracked many cases like Vivekanand Reddy murder case, Nithari case, lion poaching case, and Gudia murder case, the recent one of Himachal Pradesh. But as you can see in the slide number 1, that to record the EEG of the subject as a part of BIOS procedure, we have to attach the electrogel cap and attach some sensors to the subject, which is sometimes time consuming for the subject and also gives a reason for the subject to refuse the test. So during this time, next slide, please. There we got layered voice analysis in 2011. Now, next slide, please. Yeah. The DFS Gandhinagar is first to establish the LVA technology in India in 2011. On this LVA test, we have done quite sensational and sensitive cases like jail escape case, then Malegaon bomb blast case, and we have got good results. Next slide, please. The objective, this test was developed with a concept based on the recognition and measurement of emotional stress in the voice of subject. Next slide, please. The stress induced in the changes are found in the form of tremors, which are associated with the contraction of muscles of the human voice. Next slide, please. Which this contraction of muscles are also giving an oscillation frequency of about 8 to 10 hertz. In short, what we can say is that it is the emotional detector of the human voice. This test measures this test has 3 modes of application. One is online LVA, second is offline, and third is investigation mode. Next slide, please. And the beauty of this test is that whenever you're doing the test, you can see the online result of the subject.
Hello, I am interrupting. The slide is not moving. It is stuck in second one only. Tell Prashanto that your slide is not moving.
No, the slide is moving at this end, ma'am. It might be because of. Yes.
I can see it moving. In my laptop, it's moving.
Yeah, Amita, ma'am, you might have a problem in the connectivity.
I don't know, but there is some stuck over here, so I cannot see. Only the second slide I can see, not otherwise.
So I would suggest you to rejoin. You can log out and log in again. I think then it will be
Yeah,
working.
okay. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Next
Yes,
slide.
Hema, ma'am, please continue. Please continue. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to show you the number of cases which we have done on the LVA test from last 4 years. If you can see, like in 2017, we had about 69 cases and 123 subjects were examined on the LVA test. This test includes the online examination as well as the offline examination. I will come into the how online and offline applications are done in afterwards. As you can see that there is a gradual increase in the administration of the LVA test. The IO, the investigating agency, have rendered and have opted for the LVA test. The maximum test which we have done is in 2019, 136, and the subjects which we have examined is 295. In spite of pandemic in 2020, COVID pandemic, we have done 95 cases and have examined 201 cases on LVA test. Next slide, please. I remember when Keshav Kumar sir, who is known for his innovative way to detect the cases, I saw him that when he came, he said that we want to use this technique in the ACB cases. So when he came into 2017 as an ACB director in Gujarat, we have started using his LVA test in almost all the corruption cases. The orange line which shows is the offline mode of LVA analysis, and the brown line which you are seeing is the online analysis. So what you can see is that there is a gradual increase of offline analysis in the ACB cases, and online analysis we have also done it. Next slide, please. Now I would like to say about the online procedure. Now, when a subject is coming, online procedure, which means that a subject is produced in front of the LVA expert. First, the IO gives the request to the LVA expert to conduct the test. Thereafter, the interview is conducted with the IO to understand the crime and the role of the subject in the crime. When the subject is produced to the interviewer, the LVA expert also conducts the interview. The reason behind conducting the interview is to make the subject comfortable, stress-free, and make him more understand about the situation, why he has come, under what circumstances he has come for the LVA test. Thereafterwards, the LVA expert also explains about the LVA expert explains about the LVA test and the outcome of the test. The subject is given enough time to understand and give consent for the test. Only after his consent, the subject is taken for the LVA test. His LVA interview is conducted in such a way that the subject is giving more answers. He's giving more justification, he's giving more explanation about his role in the said crime. Ideally, a session should be about 30 to 40 minutes. Next slide, please. Now, what do you need for the LVA administration? Ideally, a soundproof room is a must for the LVA administration, because if at all you are doing an interview in a room which has noise or which has disturbances, then the voice of the examiner and the expert, examiner and the subject overlaps and interrupts the analysis. Therefore, no overlapping of the conversation should take place. The subject's language should also be understood by the LVA expert. Here, as I understand, Ami said that language does not have any importance, but when you are doing an interview as an LVA expert, you are doing the interview, it is very important for us to understand what the subject is saying, based on which you can give another question, you can pose another question to the person. Also, while online examination, you can also see that there is a non-verbal behavior you can observe about the subject, whether the subject is stress-free, or he is relaxed, or he's fearful, or he's anxious about giving the test. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. Now, what are the limitations or the challenges which we are facing in the online examination is that when a subject has been produced by the IO to the LVA expert, there's a limited period of time. The IO would say that, okay, we have brought him for 2 days to conduct the LVA test. It becomes difficult because to understand the subject is the first priority of an LVA expert. Therefore, restricted time of production of the subject for the LVA examination does not give effective results. Also, the IO sometimes is not clear about which type of what is the information to be given to the LVA expert. What are the issues which are to be examined by the expert? If a subject has got a speech problem, like say stuttering or any other speech problem, then the subject cannot be administered the LVA test. If the subject is mentally retarded or has got some kind of a comprehension problem, then in that case also the subject is not taken for the LVA examination. And most importantly, if the subject does not give the consent, then we cannot do the LVA test. Next. Now for the LVA examination, as I said you that in LVA, as I showed you in the last slide, that in ACB we have received a couple of offline series for the LVA test. Now, the interview is done by the IO who is not well versed with the LVA system or LVA procedure, and he conducts the interview. So, the LVA is, the questions posed by the examiner is abrupt, to the point, very focused. Therefore, the subject gives a very monosyllable answers like yes, I know, I don't know. So the series which we are getting it are not good enough sample to analyze it. Next slide, please. The prerequisite for the offline analysis or the offline recording is that the voice of the examiner and the subject has to be loud and clear. The voice of the examiner and the subject should not overlap with each other. Also, we have observed that when a subject is talking, the IO is talking with someone else, or the IO is answering a phone call, or there's a doorbell in between. So these are all the interruptions in the offline analysis. During the interview, the IO has to encourage the subject to justify his stand in the offense. Next slide, please. Now, challenges in the offline examination, as I said, that sometimes what we see that the subject's voice, if it is too low or too meek, then the analysis cannot be done. If there are monosyllable answers, then you don't have much scope of analysis. You are not able to give lead to the investigation. And if the interview is not done in a continuous flow, then the subject also gets a chance and excuses to give his defenses. During offline analysis, the voice is not properly classified in the system. That is whether the voice which has to be analyzed is not clear by the IO, because you can listen to two IO's voice and one subject's voice. So there are totally 3 voices which you are listening to them. Therefore, it becomes difficult that which of the voice we have to analyze. So introduction of the subject is also to be done, also to be recorded by the IO. And the lack of importance of the applicability of the test, the IO is not clear why he is doing the LVA test. He simply follows the orders of the higher officer. So when you are using the LVA test, it is very important to know that why the LVA test should be done, under what circumstances, what is the importance of the LVA test, and under what circumstances the LVA test should be done. Next slide, please. Now, steps of the improvement. As I heard Tripathi sir saying that some research work is very important, because here we are doing investigation work, which merely gives lead to the investigation. It is not a thorough investigation tool. It is a screening tool for us. Therefore, research work and some documentation work is important. Also, this test should be corroborated with investigation techniques like BIOS test or polygraph test to give a substantial result to the IO. And this test should be also done with the Indian population to standardize this technique, and intensive training should be given to the experts who are handling this test. As I said that we are doing so many cases and we have this team who is working for us. Thank you, forensic psychology team. And I would also like to thank, next slide please. I would also like to thank Mr. Sanghvi sir and Amita ma'am for giving me this platform to share my views. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hema. Now the house is open, and I would request Amita ma'am to process the deliberations.
Already today, the question said many things regarding the investigation part, and Mr. Amir Ali told about the future of the LPA. This is very good technique. I mean to say, when police people are harassed by the court and the suspect also harassed by the police. In that regard, that kind of the screening test is most favorable for any expert, and there is no need of any court order regarding all this. So it is, the LVS future is very bright. And one thing I will tell you very frankly, like that, if the students of the NFSU creating more research paper in that regard with the real cases, that it will help us to further do more things for the LV. That is all.
Thank you, ma'am, for your reflection. It's always fascinating to hear from the speakers who are real practitioners in the field. So, as was the case with Mr. Keshav Kumar sir, similarly, even with Dr. Hema Acharya, we are thrilled that both of them has participated in today's Forensic Psychology Day. And it has been really, really supplemented by Mr. Amir Liberman's person who has devised this LVA technique, as per se. So I'm really, really thankful to all the three invited speakers. Now, moving ahead, there are certain questions which has been posted in the YouTube link, and I would request if anyone in the invited guest list, if they have any particular question, they can ask Dr. Hema Acharya. If not, then I'll move ahead with the question from the YouTube. Someone has asked, what is the sensitivity of LVA, and does the typology of crime has any effect on it? Over to you, Hema ma'am.
Talking about the specificity, it is about 71% of the specificity. Though it has been said on the Israeli population, not on Indian population. As I said in my speech also, that we need to do some kind of research work or some kind of documentation for which because of which this test can be standardized.
And the type of crime, does it has any effect on this technique?
No, I would say that we have done different types of crimes, criminal. We have administered different type of criminals on this, talking about crimes of murder, kidnapping, rape, theft, atrocity cases, and the corruption cases. So
I can
also effective for the hardcore criminals as well as for the white collar crimes.
I can add one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Till 17, we are using other cases, but from the 17 to till date, we are using for the ACP on maximum. So it can be changed the scenario regarding techniques and the different type of cases.
Right, fully get. Even I think Mr. Amir Lieberman also mentioned, like, white collar criminals and the blue collar crimes can be supplemented with this technique. Yeah, thank you for your inputs, ma'am. Okay, now we are doing good with the time. I'm really happy that all the speakers are here.
Prashanto, I have got a comment, and probably this may be a food for thought. Some
Yes,
of the
sir.
eminent panelists here, including Mr. Amir Lieberman. Can we combine two methods to improve the sensitivity and the specificity? Say, for example, LVA and SDS. This is just a food for thought. And in case you feel it appropriate, we can have some dissertation topics on real situations which are simulated here in the laboratory, and two investigations, they are done together. We planned such a study last year, but because of lockdown we couldn't do any experimentation, and thereafter it was just a theoretical exercise. But in biological field, we do combine two investigations, and they yield a different kind of sensitivity and specificity. So I think this is a proposition, and this is a food for thought. If you feel it appropriate, we can progress further in this direction. And in case you like to say something, I would be very keen and curious to know from you, sir. What are your viewpoints?
I have a point to make.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, is here. Yes, sir. Please.
See, in forensic psychology, we normally don't promote single method and claim that this is the foolproof. And therefore, there has been invention which is going on. It started with lie detector. Even prior to lie detector, there was a profiling which was done, psychological profiling. Then came lie detector. Then you had SDS. Then came LVA. Then you have BOS. You also have narco analysis. So many a times we recommend you combine all the methods. So depending on the type of a criminal and depending on the type of a crime, many a time you need to cross-check whether lie detector gives you some findings, deception, based on which you are doing a conclusion that this man is lying and is involved in a crime. Rather than doing it, you also cross-check using some other methods. So normally we recommend two methods always. And you must have seen in forensic department, wherever the cases are coming, the investigating officer also recommend two methods, either VOS or LVA, or VOS and narco, or SDS and VOS. Likewise, methods are recommended. But I don't find any, so far we have not come across anything where we gave a report based on LVA and which was proved wrong afterwards. When we have said LVA, this man is lying, after many, many years, the matter has reached the Supreme Court, and then it has been proved and established that yes, the person was guilty, was really lying, and is involved in the crime. And when we say, based on LVA method, that this man is innocent, the fellow has remained innocent. I have not seen this. I've been in this field for 47 years, and psychology was established in 83, probably 82, 83. So 37 years we have been using forensic psychological methods of interrogations. We have not come across any kind of a serious contradiction between various methods. But then we do promote these methods for research purpose. When some student is doing research on LVA, we ask the student to cross-check the findings using either lie detector or maybe SDS. So that is always good. So Brigadier Dr. Tripathi has given a good suggestion. This can be done, it should be done. It is being done also. And that gives you a wide spectrum, because you are also confused. Some deception coming in lie detector based on which giving a conclusive opinion that this man is guilty and involved in crime. Even psychologists will have some apprehension that, no, let me cross-check whether things are proper or not. So this is how cross-checking is always beneficial and is normally done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I think Mr. Amir Lieberman will give his inputs in a while. Moving ahead with the session. Thank you, Hema ma'am. Thank you, Amita ma'am. Now we are moving ahead with the session, and we are coming to the second last talk for today. And I'm really indebted and thrilled that this August gathering is blessed by our mentor and the famous forensic psychologist and neuropsychologist of India, Professor Dr. C.R. Mukundan, who is the cornerstone of forensic psychology development in the country. And he does not need any formal introduction, as he has contributed immensely in the field. So my heartiest welcome to you, sir. Over to you for your blessings.
Thank you very much. Let me first address Dr. Vyas. He is my teacher, and then my friend, other friends.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Tripathi, Dr. Keshav Kumar. I have learned so much from Keshav Kumar, I remember. And all the other people. See, I'm not going to get into any details of the technology at this moment, sitting here, far away from here. Instead of that, I just want to be very brief. That's what it has been decided from the beginning itself. So when it comes to that, you find that when it comes to speaking about BIOS test, you find that there is a lot of difference between BIOS and many other tests. For example, BIOS is not to find out the false ideas in the person. No, it is not for that. I would read out a few small things from here. Forensic psychology deals with behavioral expressions originating from neural and psychological changes that occur in the brain, which contribute to behavioral changes that may be defined criminal as they interfere with the normal functioning of a person. Now, psychology is practiced as a professional discipline which trains individuals in understanding the multiples of origin of a professional discipline. Behavioral effects with an individual, some of which may contribute and precipitate behavioral effects in the individual. As a professional discipline, it deals with multiple neurobehavioral changes that may contribute to behavioral effects. That's the thing. When it comes to criminal behavior, it may contribute to multiple behavioral deficits. As a scientific and professional discipline, forensic psychology may need training and professional competence in multiple such brain behavior effects and understanding of the psychological and behavioral changes that occur in individuals. For example, BIOS is one technique wherein you don't try to find out what lies he is speaking. No, we are not interested. We don't ask him. We don't even trouble him to tell any of those things. We allow him to tell whatever he wants to. What he has to speak is important. And then how that would be verified is a different issue. That's a tough issue. And there is a lot of competence required, experimental competence required for that, which are also being trained to the students. A professional who wants to work in practice related disciplinary actions at the individual and social levels require competence in multiple brain behavior facets. That's the thing. No, you cannot just deal with the lies of the person that he is speaking and then try to find out what is a lie. No. You may be able to find out what actually is the truth and then look for the evidence to prove for the police to find out the truth, and they had to find the truth, and that's how they have solved several of the cases. Now, a professional who wants to work in practice of related disciplinary actions at the individual and social levels require competence in multiple brain behavior facets which may contribute to such behavior, which may be considered anti-individual, it may be antisocial, requiring investigative evidence as well as correctional methods, which would be applied at the individual and social levels. Now, Forensic Psychology Conference is expected to facilitate interdisciplinary discussions. That's one important thing. It's very important that interdisciplinary discussions are needed. Consideration of action proposals and applications of related investigative methods among professionals and students and of the discipline. So that is what we have been finding, that this is an area wherein the student has to sit and learn how to do the EEG, how to analyze the EEG, and how to analyze other electrophysiological or biophysical methods, and then come to a conclusion, understanding. And it is not easy actually, because you cannot take the words given by the subject. That is not what is given. You make an interpretation on your own using the findings, and then look for evidences that would support that. These evidences are supported by the police people, and they bring out the evidence. And that is how the case is solved. It's a very different type of a method that is used. Now, I would say that there was tremendous amount of help from Dr. Vyas in the early years to support a very intellectual type of investigation. And it is because of his efforts we got into several of these tests. I would like to thank Dr. Vyas for giving this field a platform and helping it grow. With his guidance, I believe India will become a forerunner and lead innovator in forensic psychology. Already we are doing that business, this thing internationally. People are getting interested in forensic psychology as practiced in BIOS. I would like to students on this August occasion that we will sponsor a gold medal for their research contribution in BIOS. This is one thing that we thought we had to do it.
Congratulations to all the students. Thank you, sir. Thank
So
you very
if there are any other questions that are to be given, understood, I would say that sitting here, it will be very difficult for me to give adequate explanation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Very much. Yeah.
Very kind of you, sir.
Yeah.
Very kind of you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presence and the announcement. I think everyone has cherished that. This was Professor Emeritus Dr. C.R. Mukundan, a renowned forensic psychologist and neuropsychologist from India. Now, we are moving towards the end of the session, but without the father, without the pillar of forensic sciences in India, we cannot end the session. So finally, I would extend my humble request to Dr. J.M. Vyasa, our Honorable Vice Chancellor and Director General of DFS Gandhinagar, to share his kind words on the observance of Forensic Psychology Day and bless the occasion.
Thank you so much. Good evening to all of you, and my best wishes and congratulations to all the forensic psychologists of the country on this occasion of Forensic Psychology Day, which we have been celebrating for the last around 8-9 years. Now, as you know, forensic psychology is entirely a different kind of an area in the field of forensic science. It's different from other forensic science subjects. And other subjects, you have an evidence which comes to you. Either you are a forensic chemist or a biologist or a physicist. Some evidence comes to you related to your own expertise. You evaluate the evidence, examine the evidence, and give an opinion based on the evidence given to you. And they are all dead evidences. In case of forensic psychology, you deal with live subjects. There are no dead evidences. They are all live subjects. So psychologist has to, why we give this kind of activity to a psychologist? Because psychologist knows how to deal with a live human being. This, see, now it is all based on instrumentation. You can use, anybody can use lie detector. Anybody can use LVA. There's nothing. LVA, you subject LVA recording, according to LVA, LVA will do the analysis and give the report. Now, what is the expertise required there? But no, when you are dealing with a human being, you need a psychologist. Psychologist will make the person relaxed. Psychologist will see that the person is normal. Psychologist will also examine the mental condition of the person who is subjected to the test. And therefore, psychology plays a very important role. And as you say, that forensic psychology is application of your knowledge of psychology in the investigation of crime. Now, psychology as such psychology is an area which deals with the mind, basically. Now, this psychology, when you apply for clinical purposes, is clinical psychology. When you apply for neurological purposes, is neuropsychology. You apply it for crime investigation purpose, it is forensic psychology. You apply it for the benefit of children, etc., it is child psychology. So likewise, psychology has been bifurcated depending on its applications. When you apply your knowledge of psychology, there is nothing. See, we have bound ourselves by drawing certain lines. I am a clinical psychologist and forensic psychology is different from me. It's a wrong notion. It's nothing but a clinical psychology. But you are applying your knowledge of clinical psychology now in the investigation of crime. There's nothing new in this. So we have to come out of this narrow-minded approach that forensic psychology is a different area and clinical psychology have nothing to do with this. In fact, the topmost forensic psychologists of the country, they all have been clinical psychologists. You take Dr. Amita Sukla, Dr. Hema Acharya, even our Dr. S.L. Vaya, they were all clinical psychologists. But then they molded themselves. They started using their knowledge and skill of clinical psychology in the field of investigation of crime. And they acquired this expertise. So there's nothing new in this. So any clinical psychology can very well learn this and apply the method of clinical psychology and investigate crime. Now, the principle of forensic psychology is basically, psychology is dealing with mind, as I told. But when a guilt is generated in someone, in the mind of some person, this guilt has wide spectrum repercussions. It may affect my blood pressure. It may affect my pulse rate. These are physiological parameters. You know this. I am not going into the details of it. And then that was the first thing which came out, that it changes my 5 physiological parameters. It's fine. Then research went on. And ultimately, when LEVA was invented, then it was, people came to know that when I tell lie and when guilt is generated in me, there is a variation in my speech. There is a variation in my voice. And if you can check the variations which come in my voice when I make a wrong statement, you can decide this person is lying. So, and then now the latest thing is that even there are moments of your eyes which change. There is a dilation in the pupils which take place. So eye detect kind of a technology has come. So there are technologies like suspect detection system, eye detect, you have LVA, you have lie detector, and top of it, you have brain electrical oscillation signature profiling, where as Dr. Mukundan, who is the father of an inventor of this technology, he said very clearly, this is not the question of saying yes or no. This is investigating the entire case. The entire sequence of the case is decided based on this technology. It's not only that you decide the guilt of a person, but this is all psychology. This is This came out from his experience of a neuropsychology. He's basically a well-known neuropsychologist, but as part of his activities, he could see that when somebody sees certain kind of pictures, and then the emotions which are generated, the retrieval of memory which takes place in the person, and that shows you the experiential knowledge. Because there are many things which you have come across, but daily you can't remember this, and you don't remember, and there's no need also to remember. But the moment some kind of an activation is done, some kind of a goading is done, then somebody comes and remembers you that, and then immediately strikes you. Oh, yes, I did this. Yes, I was present in that occasion. Yes, I attended this function. Yes, I gave that speech. That comes to your mind when somebody reminds you. So BUS is reminding someone just to see that, is there any experience? Did this person take part in this activity? So this is how it is decided, and that decides the entire sequence of the crime, if the person has at all committed. I also give more importance to LVA kind of technology because, see, the advantage in LVA also, as Dr. Hemacharya rightly said, online it can be done. This LVA can also be applied without the presence of a subject. So this is the advantage. You need not have a subject. You simply examine the voice recording of a subject, based on which you can draw some conclusion whether the person is lying, a person is not lying. And this can also be done online. This can be done in real time also, not online only, even in real time. So, for example, you are taking interviews for some sensitive positions. You just put that laptop on your table and go on questioning the candidate who is a candidate for that post. And you have a conversation with this fellow for 30, 35 minutes. At the end of it, you find out whatever answers the fellow gave, they were genuine or they were false, based on which you decide whether the person should be selected or not. There are a large number of applications. So these are the advantages of different. Every technique has got its own characteristic. Lie detector has got certain speciality, which other techniques will not have. SDS, some other kind of speciality. LVA, different kind of speciality. BEOS, again, different from others. So every technique is unique. You can't say that you can replace LVA with lie detector. You can't say that lie detector can replace LVA. LVA cannot replace brain, BOS cannot replace LVA. Oh, they are all unique. They are all highly specialized. So based on the nature of the case, based on the nature of the subject, and based on the nature of the history given by the IO and the requirement of the investigation, you normally decide the technology, which technology would be the best for me to draw a conclusion. So this is basically, we are trying to reach the truth. The investigation is nothing but what is the truth. I want to know the truth. So for knowing the truth, you decide which technology will take me to the absolute truth. Which technology will take me to the highest level of objectivity. And this is how because these are methods which are subjective. So you need to reduce the subjectivity in order to see that you attain highest level of objectivity, which is highest level of truth. And if the truth comes out, that is what every investigating agency is interested in. So they will be happy. So this is a role of forensic psychologist, a unique role, highly specialized role. They are dealing with human beings, very, very sensitive. All human beings, and especially they are criminals, dreaded criminals. Sometimes they misbehave with the expert. They don't cooperate with the expert. You have to calm down them. You have to deal with them in a very soft manner, and then bring them into normal condition, and then you decide which test will help psychologists in bringing out the truth. That's the role. And investigating officers come to you where there are no evidences. when there is no biological evidence to link the criminal with a crime committed, either rape or a murder. There is no physical evidence where you can collect this fellow with a crime scene. There is no even a chemical evidence available. There is nothing, but crime was committed. Now you don't have any evidence because it was reported to you after certain months, and then we visit the place. There is nothing which is available. Under those circumstances, how to find out who committed the crime? Psychologists are the people, forensic psychologists. They come to the aid of the investigating agency. They said, we are here, we will solve your case. Let there not be any evidences. We are here. So it's excellent, it's a highly specialized area. And this Gujarat Forensic Department, Forensic Psychology Department is doing excellent work. And you must have seen all kinds of sensitive cases are referred, which are taking place anywhere in the country. They all are referred. And dreaded criminals who did not reveal anything before IO, though they were subjected to even third-degree methods. They don't come out with any facts, nothing. They will not reveal anything. You take to whatever mean you want, they will not come out. And our experts, Dr. Hema Acharya, Amita Shukla, they were successful in breaking them to the extent that the criminals come forward and make confessions. This is the beauty of psychologists. They break mentally, they break the criminal who are dreaded one. Not only breaking them, but then they come down to the level of giving confession. They give confessions. And this is what the experts who are renowned experts of the country, they were able to do this kind of activities. After they were subjected to LVA, etc., some kind of lie was found, and then ultimately the person breaks down. I have seen terrorists, they were in the tears in their eyes. They were totally broken. And then terrorists giving a confession that, yes, I have committed this crime. And this is my future plan. I am going to use explosives in this activities. So this is the beauty. And forensic psychology cannot be used only for investigation. It is a very good tool for prevention of crime. You can prevent crime. You can know the future plans of a person so that you can prevent. It's an excellent field, highly specialized field. You require high level of experts to deal with this because very, very sensitive area. Based on your opinion, some innocent can be hanged, and based on your opinion, some criminal can go escape. So you have to be very, very cautious as what our people are doing. I am very happy that this opportunity was given to me to say a few words on this auspicious day. I would call it auspicious day because it's an auspicious day for all forensic psychologists. Whatever contributions they have made, we have to salute their contributions. They have contributed a lot. Large number of cases have been solved. Large number of complicated cases have been resolved by them. They deserve our salutations and they deserve our compliments in all the means. So I congratulate them and I wish them all the best in their life. And we hope that they will go on contributing their best to the country and the world to see that the society remains free from crime. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your interesting and thought-provoking address. I would like to express our gratitude to Honorable Director General, sir, and Vice Chancellor, NFSU, for his encouragement. And in a nutshell, he explained the domain of the forensic psychology. So it's an always really learning experience whenever he comes and delivers his thoughts. Well, a function cannot end without being showing the gratitude. And as aptly put forth by Joseph Edison, an 18th century English essayist, poet, playwright, and politician, there is not a more pleasing exercise of the mind than gratitude. It is accompanied with such an inward satisfaction that the duty is sufficiently rewarded by the performance. It is a privilege to be asked to conclude our deliberations at this webinar on Forensic Psychology Day. It is our pleasure to host all the participants of the webinar, not only within India, but also abroad. I'm thankful to all the delegates and scholars for joining in this deliberation from your respective places. We have been fortunate enough to have some of the eminent persons from academia, government, and corporate sectors. I would like to thank our distinguished speakers, Shri Keshav Kumar sir, Mr. Amir Liberman from Israel, Dr. C.R. Mukundan sir, Dr. Hima Acharya ma'am, and other dignitaries. I hope you all take this stage to interact and discuss further your ideas to grow knowledge of optimizing cognitive abilities for deception detection and investigative techniques. This evening we are parting, however, the scientific meet which has initiated today must be the necessary boost for conducting future platforms similar to this, with more number of researchers, academicians, and personnel sharing their empirical experiences and training. Thank you one and all, and have a pleasant evening ahead and a pleasant day ahead for people who are outside the country. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Jai.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. I
Yes,
say one word to you people. You had given one kind of the opportunity to all DFS staff to join the webinar, and in further, I think to all we got another opportunity regarding all this kind of the event in future. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Vyas sir, to give us more importance regarding our cases and the detection. We are not a higher than you, sir. It is very obliged for us to give some kind of the appreciation word in the past field. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Thank you. Thank you. So we end the session here, Rehan. Thank you. Thank you, the technical team. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.